morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever it is you've decided to watch this. My name's Mike Durkee. I am the new Town Moderator for the Town of Seekonk, and this program will be a review of the warrant and associated articles for the spring town meeting. Town meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 11th at 6 p.m. That was voted on at the last town meeting, so don't be late, come for 6 p.m. And fortunately, I have some wonderful guests here today that are going to assist me in explaining some of the budgetary warrant articles. Got Sean Kadim, who is our town administrator, and Dr. Rebecca Kidwell, who's the superintendent of schools. Thank you for being here to add real facts.
Thank you for having us.
Sure, you're most welcome. We're going to go right down the list of articles. First article is a report of town committees that are in existence at the current time, and that is self-explanatory in my mind, so there's no point in spending any more time on it than I've already done. The second one is the Omnibus budget article, which is the bulk of the meeting. So we should just get right into Article 2. Sean, if you want to address it, or if you want to have Dr. Kidwell go first, however.
So I guess I'll start, since it's basically the Board of Selectmen budget that's being put forward. So the process starts early December, where our department heads submit their request into the town administrator. During that period, we're working with the department heads to kind of figure out what's going on. But behind the scenes, or actually in public, we've had a quad board meeting to really kind of address the direction we're going to go in. So essentially what's been identified is whether or not we're going to the 2.5 levy limit. So that was determined at the quad board meeting in, I believe it was October. And I forget the exact date, but it was October. So that's where we start to build the budget process. Another big piece of that quad board meeting is making a percentage adjustment or determination as to what the school department was going to see year over year from the prior fiscal year. So this year it was a 2.5% increase. That's how I began the budget. So I would put 2.5% increase in the school budget, specifically the Seekonk Public Schools. And then we stop building the budget there, and that's the priority. As we go through, in January, the governor releases her budget, which gives us all our state revenue numbers, and that's really where we come back down to knowing, getting a better picture of where our revenues are. So looking at our local receipts, our state aid, and then we'll go back and start dwindling down the budget gaps that we have. This year, obviously, and I'll let the superintendent speak to her budget process, their needs are higher than what obviously we can afford on our end, so there's a little bit of a give and take. So we've met 3 or 4 times with the Board of Selectmen in public meeting, and I would urge anybody who's going to town meetings to try to review those meetings, because there was a lot of discussion between the school committee and the Board of Selectmen, some great presentations by both groups, as well as myself and the department heads talking about the needs. And we've essentially increased and moved up from the 2.5 and gotten to a different number, which total is 3.25%, and for the schools. And then overall, we're looking at a $7.6 million operating budget. I'm sorry, $76.6 million operating budget. Everybody would have been excited with the first number.
Would have been thrilled. Just to summarize quickly, A, it's a very lengthy process. This isn't something that's thrown together in 3 weeks.
Correct.
And B, it's a lot of moving parts, because you've got all of the department heads, you've got all of the school department administration that feeds things to you, then that has to be balanced with what the town is. So it's not something that just gets slapped down.
No, there's a lot of communication. And what people don't recognize or see necessarily is that the superintendent and I are meeting on a quarterly basis to discuss not only finances, but different issues that are going on the school side, on the town side. So we're in constant communication, even on a daily basis, talking with each other. So this process is evolving every single day. This is a living document. Even when it's approved at town meeting, we're constantly reviewing this and working with it.
And the other thing, if I could add, that you mentioned at the select board meeting either last time or last night, was the fact that the final figures from the governor and from the legislature don't come in until after the fact, really.
Right.
So we're doing this on the basis of best estimates from the state when we put this together and when it goes before the voters.
Right. So the state budget usually isn't approved until the end of June or early July. So that's when we have it. So we're at a disadvantage in terms of forecasting and really getting a full feel for where the state revenues are going to be. Some of the increases that really impact us are the Chapter 70 money that comes in. That's the local aid that's dedicated specifically for education. So there's some movement on that when you get from the governor's numbers to the House and then to the Senate. And then in conference committee, that's where they iron out all those things. But we're going on a premise right now that it's on the House Ways and Means budget. So the state representative's budget is what we're looking at right now.
Okay. All right. So the budget itself, 76 million plus, broken down into the departmental segments.
Correct.
Of which the school department is one.
Correct.
Okay. Any comments to particular sections that you'd like to make?
Yeah, so I'll just highlight it and then turn it over to the superintendent to talk a little bit about the school component, which is the largest component that we have on the operational budget. Local government went down 3.3%. Our public safety saw an increase of 7.9% from last fiscal year. Education is a 3.25% increase. Regional school is coming in higher than the Seekonk Public Schools. It was at 7.27%. And so the regional schools include Bristol Aggie and Tri-County. So the biggest increase there is Tri-County is building a new school. So we've got a debt assessment that's being charged to the town on that. So that's a significant number. And then our largest fixed costs is healthcare. That saw a 7.3% increase. So that's really what has made up the increases in the operational budget from this current fiscal year.
So the fixed expenses are increasing dramatically more than what's allowed,
Correct.
Which then puts much more stress on the operating budgets all across the board.
And that goes through across the Commonwealth. Every single municipality is looking at this situation where our expenses are exceeding our revenue. We've got more and more communities that are looking for Proposition 2.5 overrides to generate additional revenue. Some are looking for dedicated revenue from Prop 2.5 overrides going to specific departments, so like public safety or specifically for education. We're not there, and I think we've done a very good job internally of making sure that the budgets we have put forward are sustainable. There are hard choices like any other department has to deal with, and we've been working with that, and it still continues to be a challenge. We are, and we've had this conversation, we are concerned about the years coming forward, especially with the cost of education, which we've always known educational costs are high to educate our students. But public safety is also becoming extremely expensive recently with the competition that we're having with other communities trying to retain and recruit individuals to perform in these professions. It's been very, very difficult and hard for us to really kind of control some of these costs because there are other communities that are trying to be more competitive in terms of driving and getting in the recruitment for police officers and firefighters.
So again, summarizing, the important takeaway from here is that we've managed to massage large increases with moderated expenses in other departments, primarily because the Board of Selectmen are committed to maintaining the 2.5% limit. They're not in even considering at this point any kind of an override.
Correct.
And the future years are going to test that resolve because this is just going to continue to increase, and we don't know what the picture is going to be from the state.
Right. Correct.
Okay. All right.
Madam Superintendent?
So you've done a great job of summarizing the budget process that we go through. Everything that the town is doing with the departments that are on the town side, the schools are doing, as you indicated, with our administrative team. So we were working together as a team in the fall, and then by December we were meeting with each building to talk about what they would need, knowing from the quad board meeting that our goal was a 2.5% increase, but also knowing that fixed costs are escalating at a faster rate than that. We tried to be transparent about what would be a level services and necessary updates budget for us. And by necessary updates, I mean like things related to safety or specific student needs that we don't have a choice about providing for. That budget came in at a 4.61% increase just for the Seekonk schools. And as Mr. Kadim indicated, the schools budget line in the town budget includes not only the Seekonk schools, but also regional schools and other needs like charter tuition that we're required to pay. So when Mr. Kadim says that the schools increase is 3.25%, and you hear that the regional schools are increasing at a much faster rate, much higher rate, I guess that's a long way of saying the school committee has worked hard to figure out how we can best make compromises that have as little impact on education in the classroom as possible, that maintain the high quality school system that we seek to provide. And that's been a long process that they've been working on this spring. The school committee, if you can believe it, is meeting again Friday night and again Monday night, and we'll meet one more time in the hour prior to town meeting. And that's just because their intention is to review on tomorrow night the reductions that they had made, and then they got a response from our last, the select board meeting with some meeting in the middle there. They intend to vote, we use a system called cost centers to show the parts of the school budget as well. They have that on their agenda for Monday the 4th, and then they'll meet again on Monday the 11th just to make sure that everybody's in agreement on what we're talking about when we're at town meeting.
And one of the big takeaways here is that she's having a meeting on a Friday night.
We are.
I just want to let you know that's called
We're not
dedication.
fooling around.
I understand. That's right. So the budget that is part of the article that's going to be presented at town meeting for their approval or disapproval is a balanced budget. It's within 2.5% as we're required to be. And it meets the reduced needs of the community, both from a school's perspective and all other departments.
Correct.
Is that fair?
That's a fair statement.
Okay.
With sacrifices on both sides.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So the question before the voters is going to be, do we approve the 76.8 or whatever the thousands are in terms of the budget, or are there changes that you as voters want to see made? The people who are organizing and compiling the budgets feel that this is the best and most advantageous at the current time for everyone. So that's something that you should take into consideration, obviously, when you're considering the budget on the 11th. The next section that has to do with Dr. Kidwell are the specific items contained in the warrant article 12 through 15. Why don't you start right off with Article 12?
Sure. So Article 12 states that we are seeking $725,000 to purchase and install at the Seekonk High School pool a specialized HVAC system designed for indoor pool rooms to control humidity. So we currently have a unit that is original to the 2001 construction of the pool. It's lived with us for 24 years, which is fantastic, but it has come to, or 25 years, it's come to the end of its life. We did have an engineer out to look at it. Mr. Sagar and Mr. Roy, who's our director of maintenance, were able to meet and discuss. Expert opinions are in agreement that the unit does need to be replaced. This is the budgeting estimate in the warrant article of $725,000 is based upon speaking with the manufacturers of the technology that we would need to install. This still goes through the bidding and procurement process, and the $725,000 is just a budgeting number. If we are able to secure a replacement unit for less than that, of course that would be our preference, and any money would be returned to the town in a future town meeting. So this warrant article is just to do this work, and we would still go through the bidding process, hoping to come in under the number related to this warrant article. This was identified as a need before I even worked here in 2022 or 2023. The money that the schools had hoped to use towards this was from ESSER and COVID relief funding. The bids all came in above the amount that the schools had budgeted for that. So that money was redirected to another capital project, namely the Martin Elementary School playground. And now we are at the spot of knowing that this replacement still needs to happen. It's required for the functionality not just of the pool space, but of the high school HVAC and plumbing in general, because of the way the building is constructed. There have been some people who've asked, wouldn't it be cheaper to just fill the pool in? Why are we doing this? The honest truth is it will cost us more to fill in the pool in the short term, and we will lose an important community resource, and we will lose a resource that can give us revenue. So while filling in the pool might feel like it would be the easier thing to do, it's actually more expensive to do in the short term, and it loses us some of the long-term benefits that we have with the facility. If you, as Mr. Kadim pointed out, we've had numerous public meetings about this. One of them you can view Mr. Roy talking about and Mr. Sagar talking about their discussions with the engineer. And honestly, we could get another 25 years of life out of the facility with this installation, hopefully. And then it's a question of the pool overall perhaps needing an overhaul, and that's valid. But we don't need that at this time.
The selectmen, I believe, were split in their support for this article. I wonder if you could speak, not to have you put your words into their mouth, but I don't know if you could recap what their objections were for the two people.
So it was a 3-2 vote on this.
Yep.
And so the majority obviously agree with the superintendent in terms of the need for the Dextron unit to be installed and the use and the resource for the community. I think for the two individuals that voted no or in the negative of this, I think there was a question as to whether or not the resource is needed in the space. So it came down to a space issue and whether or not maintaining a pool and the expense associated with maintaining a pool was necessary. Okay. I will say that the vote was taken prior to a walkthrough with Mr. Sagar. He was one individual that was in the negative. He did take a walkthrough of the facility, was on, I believe, even on the roof looking at the unit itself. So I'm not sure if his take has changed or his stance has changed at all, but that's, I think, overall the reason why they were opposed to it.
Okay.
So it's a philosophical.
Sure, it's a philosophical, yeah.
But I will say that the important takeaways from this is that this $725,000, while it's a lot of money, it's very specific to the school for a Dextron unit, HVAC unit. So the money can only be spent for that, right? So as the superintendent mentioned, if the bids do come in lower, this money will be sent back to the stabilization account. And it cannot be used for anything else. So it's not like if it comes in at $500,000 that they have $225,000 to spend elsewhere. It's specifically for this.
Dr. Kidwell, you said that the unit is vital to the way the overall HVAC for the high school works. So if it wasn't replaced, there would still be additional costs.
That's part of what we're talking about with saying just fill in the pool. It doesn't solve the problem because there would be costs related to filling in a pool that is below the water table, and that's a complicated action, but also a rooftop HVAC unit would have to be installed in the space. And Mr. Roy's estimate on that was almost $500,000 just for that unit alone. So rather than make a drastic change to how we use the space and how we function as a school system, as camp and recreational users, as a swim team, we figured that in talking with engineers, in talking with the people who are really the experts in this unit, this replacement can last us and preserve the resource for a good amount of time that would be worthwhile to the community.
Okay. Move along to Article 13. Has to do with an expenditure for the asphalt, curbing, and drainage at Martin School.
Yeah, so it's a big number, and that's this article says $975,000 to replace asphalt, curbing, and drainage at the Martin Elementary School, including the design and engineering. Again, I want to be clear that this is a budgeting number for the overall project. Talking about those of you who know the Martin Elementary School, it's a large parking lot situation. The parking lots are also used related to the Cole Street fields. It has been on the capital improvement list for the schools for at least 6 years. And we keep saying this number is too big and putting it off. So the problem is the number's not getting any smaller. We heard feedback from the select board and we've heard feedback from the community. How can this possibly be the number? So what we are preparing, we actually have an appointment on Monday with an engineer to make sure that we can break down exactly where that cost is coming from, as far as these are necessary safety repairs related to drainage. These are necessary repairs related to safe paving, because that parking lot is flooding in a lot of areas in bad weather. So this has been a priority for a long time. We know the number's a big number. We need to figure out a way to do this. It's not an option to put it off and hope the number gets smaller, because we've already tried that for a few years and it's not getting any smaller. We would be glad to work with the town. If there's some way to make this a more effective project, we would be willing to do it, but the project needs to be done.
And the project, as is required, does touch upon all those three components: the curbing, the
Yes.
paving, and the drainage. And the
Yes.
drainage is just as important as any of the other two.
Correct.
Okay.
So we'll have more specific information at town meeting about the exact, some of the exact things that the engineer is able to say are real problems that we need to address, so that people can understand. I understand that 975 feels like, how could the number possibly be that big? But when you see the parts that come together to comprise that cost, then it's like, oh, yeah, okay, I see how we got there.
Right.
So we want to make sure we can show that.
Yep.
And it's just important to note that estimates are what they are. They're just estimates. So we still have to follow procurement. We'll have to go out to bid. So even if the estimates came in lower than the 975, there's nothing to say that once we go out to bid, there are going to be contractors coming in that might not have a higher bid, right? So we want to be conservative on the estimates. And just looking at this number seems high to us, because when we start looking at construction and paving work that we have, we receive Chapter 90, which is close to this dollar amount, 900,000 on an annual basis. But what we need to really kind of take into consideration here is that the drainage work is also an important part of this, right? So if we don't correct the drainage, we're just really going to be throwing good money at bad to fix this, because it won't rectify the situation.
Right. You're pushing off something that is integral to the
Correct.
entire integrity of the changes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Article 14.
So Article 14 is seeking to appropriate the sum of $100,000 to fund the third phase of updating door locks at the Hurley Middle School. This is a project that we began in 2023. It came out of the District Safety Committee, which is the town administration, schools administration, police, fire, dispatchers. We all meet quarterly to talk about school safety and movement that we can make forward in that area. So we identified some needs at Aiken Elementary School specifically. Mr. Roy researched door locking mechanisms that would help us in the event of a crisis. That locking mechanism was reviewed by the committee, and we were able to install it in some classrooms at Aiken at that time. We then, after piloting that and determining that it was successful and determining that the faculty, staff, and administration would be very comfortable moving forward with this product, we moved on at the spring 2025 town meeting to phase 2, which outfitted Martin Elementary School and Seekonk High School with these same locking mechanisms. The remaining building was Hurley Middle School, the question related to a future potential building project and how we should approach that. We reviewed some other options with the fire department about ways that we could make our classrooms secure, and the determination between administration and the fire department was that the best choice, the only safe choice, was to try to proceed with the same locking mechanism plan, keeping in mind that these can be uninstalled and reinstalled elsewhere, reused, if Hurley Middle School undergoes a significant renovation or building project. So this is phase 3, which will cover Hurley Middle School and the large assembly areas if we are using like in an evacuation setting. And then we expect there will be a smaller phase 4 to finish up any areas in the district that haven't been covered up to that point. But spring 2025 was phase 3, so now we're phase 2. So now we're on spring 2026, phase 3, and then we would come forward potentially with one last smaller cleanup.
Is the scope of this project, talking about the $100,000, is it an approximate equivalency to what was spent at Martin and the high school? And I'm not looking for exact numbers, but just I think that'd be something that the community should know.
Sorry, I'm holding my papers here.
That's okay.
High school, the doors that the high school needed and the doors that Martin needed together were each about around 50,000. So the last warrant article was 77.5, and we were able to accomplish the classroom doors in those two buildings, which is why this one at 100 is the classroom doors and then the locking mechanisms
else.
for large assembly areas around the district.
Oh, for around the district,
Right.
not
It might
just.
the high school, the middle school, and the elementary schools.
Okay.
When we've identified places like, an example would be the push bar, lock doors on a cafeteria or an auditorium or a gymnasium.
Okay, so even though this article specifies Hurley Middle School as the focus, there are pieces in that $100,000 that apply to all the schools in the district, primarily those that have to do with large assembly areas.
Yes, and we could talk about whether or not that means we need to amend the language slightly, but I think it would still be within the scope.
We may want to amend it slightly just to make sure we're covered, but
Yeah.
80 to 90% of the
Right,
lots
the
are.
majority of it is Hurley.
Okay, good. And wrapping up, I think, with the items in under the school department's purview, the next article, Article 15, talks about a building committee of 9,000 people, right?
It's because we like to include everybody. Come on.
Good.
So Article 15 talks about establishing a school building committee of no more than 20 voting members, each of whom shall be a town resident over 18, 35 total members appointed by the school committee, or in the case of employees and representatives of town departments other than the schools, the select board, to oversee a potential school building project based around Hurley Middle School. So this is related to Hurley's acceptance into the MSBA pipeline. We had applied in April 2025. We found out in December 2025 that the MSBA, which is a taxpayer-funded state-level organization, would be willing to provide significant reimbursement to a core renovation, addition, or new construction. They are allowing us to consider grades 5 through 12, in best seeking to address the space needs and the educational needs that we have as a town in the most efficient way that we can. The reason that we are asking to create this school building committee in this capacity is that, A, the MSBA has specific guidelines for who they expect to be on a school building committee, which don't necessarily perfectly match who you might have on a permanent building committee as a town. And one of the examples is you need to have the superintendent, and I don't live in town. I'm not a voting member of this committee or wouldn't be of your permanent building committee either. The MSBA also encourages you to include faculty, to include students. And so this is a more unique situation. We don't mean to supplant any permanent building committee, which we would support and be happy to be a part of. But this is just an intended special purpose related to grades 5 through 12 educational design.
And for understanding purposes on the part of the voters, it's a requirement that's placed on you by this agency,
Correct.
which would result in,
Correct.
and it's the only way you'd be eligible for
We
any
have
kind
to
of
submit
funding.
an official form, and it's
Correct.
got boxes to check about
Yeah.
who's supposed to be there.
Okay.
So that's why we're proceeding this way. The intent is to be both inclusive and transparent with the town as a whole.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much.
That's
I
it for
think
me.
that covers
I believe so.
all of the school items.
Thank you so much. I appreciate both of you having me join you today for these
Great,
discussions.
thank you.
Thanks.
This next segment pertaining to the town meeting is going to be a discussion of Article 18, which has to do with the Billboard overlay district that has been developed in conjunction with the planning board and the select board. And our town planner, John Aubin's here to give his expertise and his rationale and what the process was that resulted in this article being proposed. John?
Thank you, Mr. Durkee. Over the last few years, we've had a number of discussions between the select board and planning board with regard to signage in town, specifically with regard to potentially putting forward a billboard overlay district and a billboard signage bylaw. Over the last couple of years, we had a few discussions. Then over specifically since late last year, we actually developed a draft bylaw, which is reflected in the bylaw that's presented in town meeting, really designed to create along the highway business and industrial properties along the Route 195 corridor, an overlay district to and allow highway signs, basically highway billboards, as we see elsewhere along the 195 corridor, to obviously advertise, if people would be advertising on those boards. From the town side, there would be benefits would be they'd be available for public information, amber alerts, silver alerts, in those instances. And then also, as one of the things that came up during the process was the benefits to the town in looking at payment in lieu of taxes to kind of facilitate having these out there. As far as the actual bylaw that's presented and the district, the bounds of the district would be about 200 feet from the 195 corridor in the highway, business, and industrial zones. It wouldn't be in the residential zones or at the schools or anything like that. As far as what we would expect to see, as far as number of billboards, that's one of the things that came up during the review process. Given the fact that there are specific offsets and limitations set by the federal government with regard to how many signs can be within an area of each other, as well as in proximity to off ramps, on ramps. I think we're probably limited to see somewhere between 1 to 5 that would actually functionally be able to be cited within the proposed overlay district. As far as process goes, as I said, we had discussed this over the last couple of years. In March 18th, the Select Board referred the draft to the Planning Board for a public hearing. Public hearing was conducted on April 14th. The Planning Board voted to give it a positive recommendation on a 4-to-1 vote. There was some concern by one of the Planning Board members with regard to visual impacts and whether or not the payment in lieu of taxes would really be a benefit to the town to the extent that it was hoped. And then also some of the other topics that kind of came up were making sure that the fall zones for these things aren't falling obviously onto occupied structures. And then also making sure that there's a decommissioning bond at the end, which is something that we do for not exactly similar facilities, but with a solar facility under our solar bylaw, you've got to post a bond that provides for decommissioning the site at the end of the site's life. Or in this case, if someone was to abandon the sign, the town would have a bond available to take action and remove the sign if need be.
Okay. All right. Now, one question that I have that I know other residents will have is, this is the last article on the meeting, on the warrant. This has to do specifically with the 195/Route 6 corridor area. What is the interest, or what is the involvement? How's it going to impact people that live from Town Hall North? And why should they stick around? Because at the end of town meetings, people have a tendency to get up and get out, particularly when it's a long, involved article.
Well, I think for no other purpose than the fact that pretty much everybody in Seekonk, whether they're in kind of quote-unquote North Seekonk or South Seekonk, everybody drives on 195. So everybody is going to have a vision and a sight on these structures. Also, and benefit from them in the instance of public safety. If there's an Amber Alert or a Silver Alert where we're trying to locate an individual, to me that's one of the biggest public benefits. The dollars are the dollars, and the funds will kind of work themselves out as far as the payment in lieu of taxes. But if you were looking to see what a benefit to having these would be, I think would be that public information piece to it, and not necessarily just in an emergency situation. You would see there might be something where there's an event that the town wants to highlight. Obviously the town would want to work that into their agreement with the purveyors of the signs.
Excellent. Sean, do you have any comments?
No, I think John did a phenomenal job.
He did. John,
There you go.
Thank
That's why we
you for
invited
being
you,
here.
John.
Mr. Turkey, thank you,
Appreciate
Sean.
it.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you for coming.
See you at town meeting.
You got it. And as you'll see when the camera pans, we're down to 2, and then there were 2. People have left. But we're going to discuss the remaining articles on the warrant so that we get the explanation that you all deserve. So, first one up is Article 3, which is a consistent article that is on the warrant every year that has to do with stipends that are awarded to the Select Board, School Committee, Board of Assessor, Planning Board Chairperson and Member, Zoning Board of Appeals, the Town Clerk, and the Board of Registrars. And it's
Pretty straightforward. It's our annual appropriation for the elected and appointed officials. No changes to any of the committees or boards. The only change is the town clerk's salary, and that typically the town clerk's salary will follow suit with what we give for a cost of living adjustment to our other unions. So
Correct.
the increase is 3% from fiscal year 26 to 27.
Okay. Article 4 is the next large article in terms of appropriation of funds, and this contains 11 items that were planned in the capital planning process for the town that goes on late the prior year, correct? And Sean, if you want to speak to them.
Yes, so we put together a capital improvement plan that goes out several years, and it's just priorities based on needs coming in from the department. So what we have here is the first item is the bucket truck for Public Works. It's the final lease payment, and I just want to clarify, a lease payment is not the typical lease payment you would have in the real world. This is just a financing in the public sector, so it's a financing mechanism. We own the vehicle. We don't turn it back at the end. So it's just a way to finance the bucket truck. So it's the final payment of that. And that's $67,945. We also have the heavy dump truck, which was approved last town meeting, and this is going to be for a second year lease payment in the amount of $110,575.
And again, that's one we own.
Right.
It's just the lease payment for the second year.
Correct.
And that's a financing vehicle, a financing mechanism that's utilized. The question seems to always come up at town meeting. Well, wait a minute. What if we don't authorize the expenditure of funds? Does somebody come and take the thing away? Do we get repo man, or is it
potentially? We've never had that happen. So
I understand,
I don't want it to be the first year that we've done it. But we would have to come up with a way to be able to purchase it. So essentially, we would have to reduce, I guess, the operating budget to be able to fund it.
But the thing is, it's the way that the mechanism of town funding per state requirements go. You have to make the purchase initially. You have to commit to buy it, but then we have to appropriate the funds on an annual basis.
Yep.
So that's why this goes out.
Correct.
And so it looks like we're spending more money, but it's already money that has been
committed
and budgeted.
Correct.
For coming years.
Correct.
Okay, good. Number 3.
Number 3 is the trackless tractor. That's the name of the equipment that we use, or the vendor.
It's a catchy name.
It is.
Trackless tractor.
And it's trackless. So the tractor is actually going to be equipped with a V-plow and a snow blower for our winter operations. So we use this not only for snow and winter operations, but we do use this for sidewalks. So you'll probably see one of these machines when we're cleaning off the sidewalk for the snow. But this also uses for grass cutting over at the meadows and all the offside road that we have to cut. We're also looking to get another component, an attachment that would allow us to do potholes and fill potholes with an infrared machine. So we've got an attachment that would be included on this. So this machine itself is $250,000 with the V-plow and snowblower attachments. But since we've already used this, we have other attachments that we've already purchased that are specific to this type of machine, so that they're interchangeable, so we don't have to purchase any additional attachments. So we've got a stump grinding machine that's an attachment to this vehicle as well. So when we do cut down trees and we need to grind the stumps, we have that.
Okay. And now this is a new vehicle, a replacement vehicle?
It's a new vehicle that's replacing a current vehicle that we have, which is 1998.
98,
Yeah,
so 28 years old.
Correct.
Okay. All right, the next one, a radio console.
So this radio console is going to be a third console. So we currently have 2 consoles in the 911 dispatch center. So what this will allow us to do, that in the case of an emergency or a high call volume, we'll be able to call somebody back and work off a third console. So this console will allow us to have the actual PSAP, which is the 911 equipment as well. So the radio console itself is $63,000.
Okay. All right. Item 5.
Item 5 is a request from the fire department. The fire chief is looking to replace a 2007 and 2008 Ford Taurus. So he's looking for 2 administrative vehicles. Those vehicles will be fully equipped with radios, sirens, things of that nature, for the total of $144,000.
So again, to repeat, this is a replacement of 2 vehicles that are 20 years, well, close to 20
Correct.
years old.
Yep.
Jaws of Life.
The next is Jaws of Life. So if somebody that's not familiar with this is a tool that we use to free somebody or extricate people from vehicles that have either gotten to a crash or flipped over. We currently have a Jaws of Life, but that's not working properly, and we've had a couple of calls. We had to go on there and then had to go back and get a second set. So we're looking to replace the current Jaws that we have. We've also reached out to Bristol County Savings Bank. They're opening up a new branch right next to the Whole Foods location. They're actually going to be donating a set of Jaws of Life as well on top of this article. So we will have 2 brand new, fully functional Jaws of Life, which we can be one at headquarters and then one at Banner Station as well.
So those units do get used, obviously.
They do, and they're very critical to free people from vehicles that when you can't open the doors.
Sure, when you're talking minutes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Next one, item 7, animal control.
So the next one is going to be the town hall server. It's going to replace the server that we currently have, which utilizes on there is for animal control. It has a IT utility software, a domain controller. The assessor software is on there as well. So that's coming to an end of life as well. So that's just a replacement on that.
Okay.
And that's in the amount of $41,660.
Okay. New sign for another sign or a new sign for human services, or is it software?
It's a software upgrade with some components to it. So currently right now, we only have the ability to put out the messaging is in red. So this will allow us to give us a little bit more color and flexibility in terms of how we put out the messaging on that sign that's currently outside of the human services. So it'll give us a full LED color sign upgrade, similar to what we see at the high school, if you drive by the high school.
And is it also that the existing sign has a limitation in terms of number of characters?
It does, yeah.
Okay,
So this will fix that.
I've heard some complaints about abbreviations that weren't too well welcomed by people from human services.
So that's in the amount of $15,000. So this has been on the capital item for a while, but when we're starting to look to get out messaging, it becomes a little bit more of a challenge with that sign in particular.
Next 2, we've got cameras, and then the number 10 is for helmets for the police department.
So the first one is going to be the body-worn cameras. So we've worked with the police union to actually negotiate body-worn cameras. So it's something that is being utilized throughout the Commonwealth and the country right now. It protects the police officers, but it also ensures transparency for the community as well. So we'll be looking to purchase 51 body-worn cameras in the amount of $64,725. This is a 5-year contract. So we'll have, not only will we have all the cameras, this is unlimited storage. So the big part of body-worn cameras is storing the video.
Yep.
So with this comes unlimited storage through the company. So that's the big component for us.
With that storage, is that an annual contract or an annual storage fee?
It is.
Okay,
It is.
so that will be recurring, but that'll be an operating.
Correct.
Okay. And then the helmets.
So the ballistic helmets and face shields, looking to get 50 ballistic helmets and face shields for the amount of $65,000. This is in the event of any type of riots or anything that's taken place. We know there's been a lot of protests, and while they've all been friendly in terms of having security and discussions about security around these protests, we don't have the equipment to, in case something does erupt, to be able to properly protect not only the officers but the community as well.
And then finally, the cameras for the animal control department.
So this is just the installation of an additional cameras throughout the building. So we do not currently have any cameras in the dog kennel in the prep room. So there's some concerns with that. Number one, safety issues. So if we have an individual in there and God forbid something happens, the dog is attacking one of our employees, we don't necessarily have the access in the front if somebody's in the main desk area. So that will allow us to see that, but also to watch and see the animals as well. And then when we get in the prep room, there's also limitations on how many people can be there, but you have a second set of eyes as well in case something does go wrong.
Okay. And does that has remote access?
It does.
I'm assuming? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so there are 11 items under Article 5, under Article 4, excuse me, and approximate, my quick math said this is approximately $900,000.
Correct.
Coming from the Municipal Capital Stabilization Fund.
Yep.
And we didn't mention this when we were discussing with Dr. Kidwell, but this has a majority vote to withdraw those funds. The ones that we were talking about, because they came from a different fund, require a 2/3 vote.
So hers, I think, still require simple majority because they were building an infrastructure on a couple of them. But we can
A couple of them,
yeah,
yes,
correct.
yes, but that's the key.
Correct.
A general purpose fund has to be a 2/3 vote. Specific funds are a majority vote.
Right, as long as we're using it for those specific
For those
purposes.
specific items.
Yep.
And if it isn't used for the specific item, the funds go back, the dollars go back into those funds.
Correct.
Okay. Just to be sure that people understand.
And so even with the 900, it's actually $901,907
Yep.
for this warrant article. This actually still maintains a fund balance of 3% of the prior tax year levy, which is part of our financial policy in terms of a minimum balance to maintain in this stabilization account.
And the balances that will exist in all of those stabilization funds are in line not only with our financial policy, but they're also looked upon favorably by bond rating agencies, correct? So that's why we've got those policies in place
Yep.
to make sure that we have good bond ratings.
And that's typically the first question they ask is any change in financial policies and any change on how you fund your stabilization accounts.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. Article 5.
So Article 5 is really a carryover from one of the requests coming in from the prior article, and this is for the body-worn cameras.
Right.
Because this is going to be a 5-year contract, any contracts greater 3 years or more require town meeting approval. So what we're looking to do is we've appropriated the money for the purchase of the body-worn cameras, if that's approved. In this article, we're looking for approval to be able to enter into a 5-year contract for that.
Now, just so we're clear, the 5-year contract has to do with the cameras themselves, the software that supports the camera, and then my final question would be, is that a question of ownership at the end of that 5-year period?
So it's all, so it's going to be the cameras, it's going to be what the cameras need, the charging stations, the cables.
Okay.
It's going to be the license agreements that we have
Yep.
and the unlimited storage, and then the cameras belong to us. And
At the end,
at the end of the contract, right? And then we would probably most likely be rolling this over because we still need the storage. So after 5 years, we'll be coming back to town meeting because we're going to need the data storage.
Right.
And then also, I think in this, if there's anything that breaks with the cameras, they get replaced as well. So.
Okay. And this is a 2/3 vote required, but there is no expenditure of funds here.
Correct.
It's already been covered in the other one.
Correct.
So they do go hand in hand. If one gets passed and the other one
Yep.
doesn't, we don't have a deal.
Right.
Okay.
And we technically could have probably included that in the capital, but I wanted to make sure we separated it and
Sure.
made it nice and clean for everybody at town meeting to understand what we were doing.
Okay. Article 6, again, a 2/3 vote that has to do with contracts, and this is for new or continuing leases for police vehicles.
Yes.
Explain this one.
So very similar to the body-worn cameras. So this is a 3-year lease agreement for new cruisers that are coming out of the operating budget. So every year we build 3 new police vehicles coming in. So for replacement purposes for the police department. So the only thing we need is the approval to enter into that 3-year agreement.
Okay. And again, the money isn't here. The money's already been comprehended in the prior article.
Correct.
Okay. And we have a cap either by procedure or by policy within the department and within the town with the number of vehicles
Correct.
that exist. We're not adding to our fleet.
No, we're
simply
replacing.
maintaining the fleet because the ones that are being replaced are too old.
Right,
Too many
correct.
miles. Okay.
And these vehicles, if anybody's aware, obviously they're running 24/7.
Correct.
Right? So we don't have a lot of our vehicles have any real downtime. So it's important to replace these vehicles. So,
Right.
So we've built that into the operating budget.
Okay. Article 7 is the Community Preservation Committee and the funds associated or that it can administer.
So the Community Preservation Act allows a surcharge on the property taxes. So you can go up to a 3% surcharge. The Town of Seekonk does 1.25%. So the first $100,000 on your valuation of your home is exempt. So if your home value is $300,000, you only have a surcharge of 1.25% on $200,000 of that. So that will be charge that when you pay your real estate tax, and then it gets allocated into several buckets. So it's for open space and recreation. It goes into historical preservation of properties and buildings, and then also for development of housing if there's any projects for that. So the municipality and the town can apply for grant money with that. There's also a matching component from the state that comes in as part of this. So anybody doing any real estate deals and closings at the Registry of Deeds, there's a surcharge that the state charges for any real estate deals, as well as land court deals. So if there's any land court cases, there's recording fees. So there's a surcharge that gets put into this trust fund for Community Preservation Act. So then the state will allocate, on top of the 1.25% that we get, a percentage of those revenues coming in from those two areas.
Good.
So we have to, by law, are required to put at least 10% into each of the three categories. So that would be 10% into the historic resource reserve, the community housing reserve, and then the open space reserve, which is what we're doing. The remainder of the money that's coming in through the tax is then put into a general budget reserve account that we can actually reallocate later on. Mm-hmm. Something a little bit different this year, I believe, is the $3,000 administrative expense. So they allow for 5% administrative expense as well.
Okay. So the surcharge that's being made on taxes goes into this fund, split specifically on an annual basis, and then the Community Preservation Committee is responsible for requesting the administration of the administering of those funds for projects that they have coming up in the future.
Correct. So, and the CPC will take in what we call grant applications. So anybody can submit a grant application depending on which category they're in. They will make recommendations. Then that's their sole purpose. So they'll make recommendations to the legislative body, which for us in Seekonk is town meeting.
Town meeting.
So then town meeting has gets a second vote to either approve or reject the recommendations coming forward to spend these monies.
Okay.
So this article is just to appropriate the money, the tax money, into these various buckets, and then any other projects that come through will have to go back to town meeting.
To make it easy for me to understand, on all of these conversations we've been having, the budget, item 2, deals primarily with operating expenses, similar to my checking account.
Yes.
These, stabilization account, Community Preservation Act, that's our savings account.
Correct.
So the town is putting money aside into savings. And again, that assists us in getting better ratings with bond companies because we've got a certain amount that's there for rainy days.
Correct.
Okay. All right, moving along. We've got Article 8, Article 9, and Article 10, which even though they have different numbers in them, one of them doesn't even have a number, these are here every year.
Correct.
Right?
Yep. So Article 8 is just authorizing the Board of Selectmen to dispose of any surplus property or material that we have. So by law, we can't just get rid of office desks. We have to declare that surplus through the Board of Selectmen, and then we can either auction it off, or if there's no value, then we can dispose of it.
Okay.
But this is excluded from buildings and lands. So they cannot declare a building or any land surplus. They would have to go back to town meeting if there's any intent to either sell a building or sell any land.
Yep. I see that there. Okay. And then Article 9 has to do with the small snowstorm expense that we had from February.
So every year we'll have an article for snow and ice because snow and ice is technically the only line item in the operating budget that can run a deficit. So we have not increased that budget, and no other community has increased their snow and ice budget because once you increase it, you need to maintain it at that level. So we currently budget at $91,000.
Yep.
So if we increased it this year to $200,000, then we would have to maintain that every year. So the purpose of this is that obviously $91,000 is what we felt is needed to maintain any type of snowstorm. So we don't want to put $200,000 and not have it snow, and then we've got $200,000 that's committed to it. So obviously all the snow that took place this winter has exceeded that, so we have a transfer that's being requested coming from the stabilization account, the general stabilization account, in the amount of $230,000. So that will require a two-thirds vote
because it's the general. In your estimation, the $91,000 is appropriate for a normal snow year?
I would say the 91,000 is probably inadequate with cost escalation of costs, but it will cover. So the 91,000 will cover, maybe one or two sanding operations. So some ice on the road or a snow operation. Outside of that, we anticipate that this is going to run in the deficit every single year.
So that's anticipated.
Yep.
All right. And then Article 10 has to do with the transfer of ambulance receipts.
So this is just going to be for the third year of the lease payment for our ambulance. So ambulance receipts are dedicated receipts. So every time we have a run through the EMS, we receive payments through that. So patients will get billed. We receive that payment, and that goes right into a dedicated ambulance receipt account or a savings account. So we're looking to transfer that into the operating budget so that we can, not the operating budget, into the account so that we can pay for this.
Okay. All right. Article 11 has to do with the cable access channel.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
So TV9 Seekonk Cable Access has put together a budget. So we now do this twice a year. So we'll do it at November town meeting and then spring town meeting. They submitted a budget for the operation leading up to or carrying them over through November. So they're looking for an amount of $149,102. They did present the budget to the Board of Selectmen at a meeting. So if anybody's interested in that, they can go look at that. But this is money that's coming in directly from Comcast.
Comcast, yep.
So anybody who has Comcast, they're also paying a surcharge. Comcast then feeds us some of the additional revenue, and that's to be used for cable-related activity.
And for the next time I have trivia, PEG?
Public Education and Government.
Excellent.
Access
Okay.
TV.
Yep, Access TV. So we're on to the last two, which are Articles 16 and 17, which have to do with accepting general laws from the state.
Correct. So this was these next two were requested by the town clerk. So accepting Chapter 41, Section 110A allows the town clerk for any deadlines that fall on a Saturday, we typically currently right now would have to open on a Saturday. So the town clerk would have to be here and receive any type of paperwork or documentation. So what this is allowing by accepting this law, it allows us to treat Saturdays like a holiday. So any deadline that falls on a Saturday would then be moved to Friday. So it just helps the town clerk's office with elections.
Sure.
Article 17, so that's Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 53, Section 9A. This will allow the town clerk to institute a deadline of when you can take out when you can take out papers for elections. Mm-hmm. The current process allows candidates to pick up election papers the same day that they're due, the final day that they're due to return for signatures. So this would allow the deadline to be moved 48 hours in advance. So you would 48 hours in advance be able to pull your papers for election, and then 2 days later you would have the ability to return them at that deadline.
And that covers all of the articles.
Yep.
Sean, I want to thank you for being here. I think it's a busy time for you right now, so we appreciate the fact that you're able to share your information and your knowledge with the rest of the town. Hopefully that'll make your job on the 11th easier. Again, as a reminder, town meeting is Monday, May 11th, 6 p.m. Thank you very much again, Sean. Thanks to Dr. Kidwell and to John for being here. And I hope this helps out the people who are watching. And we'll see you on the 11th.